This is Scott Richmond.
And Arnie Sherman.
You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. It's Easter, Arnie. Good morning.
Happy Easter, Scott, and to all of our listeners, a happy Easter Sunday.
Hey, we're not just celebrating Easter here on What Do You Know, we're also celebrating Passover.
Right, it's a busy holiday week.
It is.
Lots of religious doings going on. But today, we've done shows before about entertainment and the movies, but we haven't done a show about a movie theater, a specific movie theater.
Right.
And we have a very interesting one here in town called the Roxy, which was first opened in 1937 and operated continuously until it burnt down in 1994 and then was brought back after that. And then in 2013, it took on full-time operations again. And we have Mike Steinberg, who's the executive director of the Roxy, this community theater, the only theater I know where you can be a member of the movie theater, which is kind of a cool thing. And he's also the executive director of the International Wildlife Film Festival. But I want to tell you...
And Jerry's going to be here, who works with him on that, too, who's producing the event.
Oh, good. So we have both of them joining us in a few minutes. But I want to share with you a very personal movie theater story of mine.
Perfect. Is it clean?
It's clean enough for Easter Sunday. And it's sort of my Coca-Cola moment. There's always those commercials about someone in a movie theater with a Coke and it's dark and he's looking at the girl and the girl's looking at the guy, and then finally she takes his arm and puts it around her, and the Coke is making its bubbling noise, and it's that whole shtick. But I have a variation on that happened to me one of the first times I went on a date to a movie theater. I mean, movie theaters are, some of the first dating experiences where you can get, a girl alone in the dark, essentially in a public place. So I was in New York and grew up on, as everyone knows, on Long Island. And I was invited out by an older woman when I was 13 years old. Susan Miller, who was 15 years old, asked me to go to the movies. And we went and took 2 buses to get to the Valencia Theater in Jamaica, New York, which was far away from my house, but it was a mecca of movie theaters.
Really?
It was one of those wonder theater chain of the movie. They showed double features. You got 2 movies for the price of one. They had one of the big organs, in there with an organ player, and it actually sat 3,500 people. It was
my God.
Huge movie theater. And I went there with Susan, and we were sitting in the movie theater. It was pretty crowded, and watching a movie. The movie was Around the World in 80 Days. Never forget this. I'm sitting next to Susan, a younger man with an older woman in the movie theaters, and she took my arm and put it around her, which was a seminal moment for a young man of my age. And as soon as that happened, the matron in the theater shined a flashlight on us, took us up to her office, and called my parents.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes, I was the only time I was busted in my life.
What is this, like the 40s? What, in the 50s?
Yeah, this was in the 60s.
This is in the 60s? Yeah. When in the 60s?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was
who
terrible...
blew the whistle on who?
Well, they had matrons in these theaters.
The Summer of Love.
To establish, propriety. And apparently, the 2 of us kind of huddled together with our arm around each other was not what was expected.
How much older was she? 2
years older than me, which is a big
That's
deal
a big
at that
number.
Time. Of course, since it got out, because her parents got called and my parents got called, her 17-year-old boyfriend found out about it and beat me up. So it was a traumatic dating experience. I didn't date again for 14 years after that. I was afraid if I go ask somebody out, I'm going to get beat up. So
did you defend yourself when the guy was trying to beat you up? Because he didn't beat you up.
He beat me up. He beat me up. I actually went home and got a knife. Sure. And I was gonna go and stab him, as what happened in New York. And my friend at the time,
West Side Story.
Yeah. I went and got a knife. I'm gonna stab this guy. I mean, he beat me up in front of her. It was a humiliating experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And I went and got a knife, and I was gonna go after him. And my friend Evan Elkins stopped me from a life of crime, a life at the juvenile detention center on Rikers Island or something. Who knows what would have happened?
Right. I would have gotten a knife, a butter knife, and I would have probably buttered his bagel.
So there's a moral to that story.
What is it?
So a couple of years later, there was a touch football game going on in the community, and he was playing on the other team. And he had forgotten about all this. And I was 2 years older and, bigger and stronger, and he wasn't that much bigger and stronger than he was before. And I caught him off guard and cold-cocked him and knocked him out.
Completely.
Knocked him out.
Arnie's tough, ladies and gentlemen.
And then his parents came to my house and complained about my brutalizing.
What was his name?
His name was Alan.
Alan?
Not a very. His name wasn't Rocco or Louie. His name was Alan.
Alan.
But he was older at that time. When you're 13, and somebody's 17.
Right.
It's a big age.
That's
difference.
a huge difference.
So anyway, that was my first experience in a community theater. I have much more pleasant experiences here in Missoula at the Roxy, which is a tremendous theater. It's got fantastic popcorn. As you know, you can get wine.
Yeah.
It's
cold smoke.
There's live performances there. There are the performances of the operas and all the national events get staged there. Those digital performances that come to the local community of the Metropolitan Opera and the London London performances of.
No, it's a good place.
It's a great place, and we're
lucky to have it.
And I'm looking forward to talking to our guest today about the theater and what we can expect in the future.
When we come back, we're going to have Mike and Jerry from the Roxy. You're listening to What Do You Know on KGVO, proudly supported by Don Maddox, Glacier Sotheby's International Realty. We'll be back after this with the folks from the Roxy. We're back. It's Easter. Our guest's Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hi. How you doing, Scott?
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. You too.
Jerry.
Hello.
Say it louder. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Oh, even
nice
better.
to see you.
And Scott, tell our listeners where they're from.
Okay.
Where we're from, or where your listeners are from?
No, we know. Our listeners.
I'm from
okay,
Metuchen, New Jersey.
Yeah, St. Louis, Missouri, originally.
You're from St. Louis?
Yes, sir. Bonham Road.
Getting Arnie control quickly.
Arnie, right down the road.
Arnie, come on.
We got a lot of time to fill.
They're from the Roxy.
No, we don't have very in-depth and poignant questions to ask.
Jerry and Mike are good friends of ours here at Town Square Media and KGVO. They're from the Roxy Theater, and they are, they're carrying the torch for independent film here in Missoula, which we love.
Thank God that we have the Roxy Theater.
Trying not to get burned with that torch. Yeah, that's the deal.
So let me ask you this just to get started.
Sure.
Mike. What drove you to this career path?
Well, I grew up in St. Louis.
Right, in St. Louis.
And my dad had a movie theater in our basement, and he collected 16mm films, and he would always screen films for the neighborhood. It was just a time before cable, before VCRs.
Right.
In fact, he resisted VCRs for years. Like he just wouldn't even have one. Yeah, and then
no
DVD.
Video.
He actually, I think he might have gone right to a DVD eventually. Like never joined that.
Right.
Really?
Train. Yeah, never jumped on that train. But he would, he collected the 16mm films. He would buy them. A lot of this stuff was made for airlines and cruise ships and educational use or whatever. But he had like Casablanca and The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I can't believe you mentioned The Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Because your dad was at Universal.
And when I lived in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He was screening that movie one night in our house and was showing it on the wall after the kids went to sleep.
Weird, yeah.
And I woke up in the middle of the night and walked out of my room.
And it was right there. That's terrifying.
The big lizard, that creature, and I never woke up again in the middle. I was afraid to leave my room for the rest of my life until I graduated college.
That's hilarious.
But that's funny. The Creature of the Black Lagoon.
So that's what it was. It was just developed this kind of just love for film and for the whole experience of showing movies, going to movies, and but then he had a record store. He owned a record store when I was a kid, so it was also kind of this other thing that got me all kind of screwed up.
Did he really?
With music. Yeah, he owned a record store.
Did he have musicians coming in and out of?
He did. They kind of specialized in this kind of Midwest scene, which was an AOR music scene and stuff that was really popular in St. Louis that was popular nowhere else. Such as Bob Seger before he ever got
I was going to
big.
say Bob Seger, Ted Nugent.
J.D. Blackfoot.
So have you watched all the movies made about record stores?
I have, yeah. There's like a
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity is one of my favorite. I can't not watch that.
Yeah, or Tower Records or something.
Yeah, Tower Records is a great one too.
Yeah. There was this wave of documentaries about record collecting about 5 years ago when it came back around. So that's what it was. And then I went to film school, And
where was that?
That was in St. Louis as well, at Webster University, which is a fine little arts and arts school there. The community, the regional arts, what's it called? The
community college.
No. It was a legit college.
13th grade.
The 13th grade. Yeah, it was great. The St. Louis Repertory Theater is based out of that university as well. So that they have a big kind of arts and theater and film community. So yeah, that's what I was mostly interested in, making fiction films. And then we made a feature in St. Louis in '96, and it was like so much work that we're like, let's make documentaries. Let's
have
just
more fun.
Take 5 years to make a movie and just point the camera at something happening.
And that helped you migrate to Missoula, Montana?
Exactly, actually, because when I finished school, I moved out here, and I did start making some documentaries out here and Forest Service work, and it was easier to kind of get fiction, nonfiction work together than making them.
And Jerry, how'd you get here?
And Jerry, what's your last name?
Rafter.
Jerry Rafter?
Jerry Rafter.
Baker Street? No, that's Rafferty.
Rafferty.
Good track.
Sorry, Jerry.
I just drove. Around
She drove. It was a super.
Ran out of gas, and here you are.
I'm from Polson, just a little north of here.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Born and raised. Yeah.
And your job at the Roxy is what?
I'm the producer of the International Wildlife Film Festival.
Which is, when is that happening?
It starts on
yesterday.
Yesterday, we
can't
kicked
say
it off.
that without having some type of sound effect.
Right.
Can we get
dun, 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 dun,
No,
dun, dun.
wild animal.
Oh, yeah, I like that. What sound does a coral make?
That's
the sound of coral.
The sound of a coral dying in the ocean.
Yeah.
a seagull.
Yeah, no, it started yesterday.
Yes.
Jerry launched it with the big parade.
The 40th annual. Wait, right?
The 40th annual
That's
IWSS.
a big deal. That's a drum
huge
roll.
Deal.
Isn't this one of the longest running film
It is.
festivals in America?
Yeah, it is, actually.
Isn't that amazing?
I stacked it up against some other non-wildlife film festivals, and we still come out really close to the top. So long-running, definitely the longest-running wildlife-themed film festival in the U.S.
That's cool.
And how many films are going to run during this festival?
Over 80, I think we have.
That's fantastic.
Films. Lots of great films, and it was the 25th anniversary of the Wild Walk Parade.
Well, that's cool, too.
Yeah. So
Did you see all those huge animals and the massive turnout downtown? It was incredible.
I thought that was just the hangover I had.
Oh, people like stumbling out of the.
Yes.
You imagine you said big
Exactly.
elephants everywhere. Pink.
So let me ask
The
you,
Shriner
80 films.
Circus.
Yes.
Most of these films will never make money, right?
Right.
So what's
got
the
that right.
driving force to keep? What's the driving force to keep people making them?
It's
Stubbornness or just
it's the filmmakers. These people love their causes and these animals, and they get obsessed and they get so into it, and they give up the rest of their lives. They
here's a guy
get
sitting
divorced.
out in
They
a
break
frozen
up.
field for 14 days to get one 30-second shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's worth it and it has many uses and it has a long life. These things they're not like, I mean, some of them are current, right? And they have the timeliness of the matter, but some of them are just beautiful documents of a time and space, which is, if they don't capture it, who's gonna?
Right. A lot of the films have nonprofit and conservation partners. That
Do they? That help defray?
Yeah, a lot of groups are using film now as part of their outreach, putting it into their budget. For instance, Conservation International came on board to make Under the Canopy, which is our VR film that's going to be screening this week. But it kind of comes, nonprofits are starting to realize that these short documentaries that go to film festivals and then go live online are really great pieces for what they're doing. So it's not just the filmmaker out there by himself. He does have some group behind.
You ever seen one of these VR films?
Yeah.
Virtual reality?
No, tell me about it.
Oh, it's amazing. You put on a headset, they're called the Oculus headset.
Yes.
And we'll have, this thing's playing later this week on Friday. It was Wednesday and Friday, right? It's a couple of
yes, Thursday and Friday.
Thursday
at 3 at the Roxy and Friday at the Natural
Yeah,
History
and so
Center.
we have headsets. You put on the headset, and then you're there in the environment.
And you're interacting with the film.
Yeah, and the film. Yeah, exactly. You can walk around in it. You can look up. It's above you. It's it's 360 all around you. It's incredible.
I have seen that. A friend is doing something for Mass Mocha. In Boston. In this summer, and she actually is using VR.
Cool.
And it's incredible, actually.
Yeah. The first time I experienced it a couple of years ago at the Jackson Wildlife Film Festival down in Jackson Hole. And it was these really brief segments but they were all wildlife related, as you would imagine. And there was like a sloth, there was a buffalo, there was a jaguar, and the sloth was the most amazing one. You just put on the headset and you're there in the jungle, and then you look around and you just checking out the jungle, and then you realize there's a sloth right there hanging in a tree, like his arm is like reaching cool. in 3-dimensionality, or what? How do you say it? 3D.
3D.
That's good enough.
Right. It's 4D. How is that?
That's why I lived in a city most of my life.
For 4D?
To avoid that experience.
How many headsets do they have actually that people can experience this in VR?
This time around, it's a smaller screening, so there's just going to be 8.
8? Well, still, that's a lot, though.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Everybody can be doing that together, yeah.
No.
So I want to go back to ask you a question, Jerry. This is the International Film Festival.
Yeah, it definitely.
So out of the 80 films, how many are non-American?
A good third of those
really?
are
and is there a
yeah.
particular place in the world where wildlife film is a hotbed outside the United States?
You mean for watching or for
producing, making?
Well, Africa's always been really strong. A lot of people make documentaries about the large mammals that are there and the conservation issues that are happening in Africa. But I would definitely say that Southeast Asia is on the upswing for filmmaking. We had a lot of films submitted from Southeast Asia. Not all of them got in, but
a good Indian film.
Couple of elephant films about elephants in India. Wild Sieve is one of them. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's about the impact that elephants and other animals in India are making on villages and just how the people deal with it.
Sure.
That's cool.
It's sort of like us and deer, but to a much greater degree.
And who screens the films?
Oh, we have programmers, people. So we have like the first line of defense,
right?
Where
they say, that's not going in our film festival.
Exactly. We have that going on with our programmers, and then we go, which is very unusual for film festivals. We go to a second line of defense through our community judges, and so we get people together for a full 2 days of judging, and those folks are from the Missoula community. So.
And some of them have been.
And for our listeners, are there awards given?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So the just one thing about the judges though, that preliminary judging sort of phase, some of those folks have been involved with the festival for 20 years and have been preliminary judges, and we bring people in who are filmmakers or media makers, conservationists, scientists. So it's bringing in multiple perspectives.
Right.
And then the next phase, is the actual judges that. Help to kind of name the awards, and there's 3 guests coming in to judge this year. Three
big judges this year.
What are their names?
John Hemingway is a documentarian. He lives in Bozeman, but has just been on the wildlife filmmaking scene for decades.
Okay.
And we have 5 or 6 of his films that are screening this year. And then the other 2 are Gianna Savoy from the Natural History Unit of Filmmaking out of MSU. She's a professor there. And Rue Mahoney is coming up from
Jackson. She's involved with Jackson.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. She is a terrific scientist, and she researches science communication. So really interesting person there. But those are our top 3 judges.
Jerry, did you go to college here at the university?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did you get into film? Because you seem to be very knowledgeable and have a great passion for this.
He says that to everybody. Don't worry.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I came into filmmaking because I was 24 years old going, what is the most fun thing I could do with my life? Where am I going to have the most fun?
Yeah.
And I was living in LA, and I just thought, I'm here. Might as well start making movies. So I started working in a production office, read scripts, and just started from there. Then came back here, got an MFA in media arts, and have been working in production ever since. So I do make, when I'm not working at the film festival, I make films, commercials. I live in Montana, so anything that comes my way.
Got it.
Yeah. And then.
So let me talk about the overall Roxy concept.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
You have a movie theater that shows what we used to call as a kid an art house, right?
Sure.
You show movies that are not out at the multiplex and very interesting films. And if anybody believes in Rotten Tomatoes, most of the time these films are highly regarded, critically well thought of films that just don't make it into the big multiplex theaters. So you got that. You have live performances that take place. Mm-hmm. You have a film academy that happens. You have this. You have the Montana Film Festival.
Correct.
So does all of this collectively make money? I mean, it's a not-for-profit, which generally means, you're always at the end of the year trying to figure out how you're going to make things break even.
We are a nonprofit. Just briefly, it started as the International Wildlife Film Fest, which, again, was 40 years old this year.
Right.
They purchased the Roxy in 2000 as a home for the festival and kind of quickly grew out of it and needed the space like the Wilma. They rented the Wilma.
Right, they needed more venues.
The matinee programs. Like they bring in like 200, sometimes 1,000 kids at a time. Like this year we're doing that at the Denison Theater. Same concept. But so it never really, it was always the home, but it was only like once a year kind of home. And so when they brought me on 4 years ago, they were kind of in a, stressed situation as an organization. And we made it through that festival 4 years ago, which is the 36th annual. And shortly after, I proposed we do something more with the theater. We have these 3 screens. We could expand our mission and really do a lot more. There was this kind of underserved community from my perspective that films like this weren't playing. And if they were, when I say films like this, I mean like what you described outside of the kind of mainstream.
The movies you want to see that make you think that are interesting films.
That sort of thing. And they were playing at the Wilma, but they were kind of just going there and dying,
Right, and then the Wilma was going through a rehab and didn't have anything.
Timing was impeccable, and we couldn't have sort of made that happen, but it just kind of did. And so a film would come, and it would stay there for like 7 weeks, and people would never go see it. And we're like, it's probably a more lively kind of vitality if you bring a film 2 weeks tops, maybe, unless this does really well, like something like Moonlight or Certain Women did great for us because it was shot down. Mm-hmm. So it stays around 5 or 6 weeks. But our model is that we bring in these independent films for a couple of weeks, and everyone is pretty clear that that's your opportunity. It's not going to stick around forever. But really, our approach is kind of all brow. So we do have art films, we have foreign films and independent films, but we also have a Bill Murray Film Festival in the summer called Murray Me, and we played Big Trouble in Little China over the weekend, with Kurt Russell.
Right.
Have a cult movie series on Saturday nights, and partner with different organizations to bring their content in. We're a host venue for festivals, and we do comedy once a month with open mic stand-up and music on occasion. Our venue's not super conducive to that because the walls are. The rooms are soundproof, but if you're really jamming in one room, it can be disruptive. So
I think you make a good point. Like you mentioned Moonlight, right, which was made in 4 days on less than $1 million,
incredible,
something like that, and it's wins the Academy Award. That would never have a place out at the big, the box theaters.
No,
right?
It's ironic actually. We opened it and we couldn't wait to get it because we had read about it, and we got it in October of 2016, and did very well with it because it was perfect for our constituency. And then it got nominated, so we brought it back. And then it won, so we brought it back again. And at the same time, that after it won, that week after it won, where we gave it another week, the other theater, the multiplex, brought it as well. But they gave it like 1 9 o'clock screening.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Do you guys coordinate in that rare instance that there might be an overlap?
Well, Get Out played at the Roxy last week.
Right.
It had been at the Carmike for a little while, or whatever that is now, the AMC, and it had a run, and it did actually just kind of so-so relative to how well it's done in the rest of the country.
Nationally, sure.
Yeah, so we were like, it's got some life in it, so we brought it back, and we had a great week with it.
Well, it also must have been timing because then the word leaked out. It had 100 on Rotten Tomato. The people that follow that
phenomenal movie.
So in that case, that's in the industry they call it a sub run. So you're just like bringing a film back after it's already been released.
Right.
There's other examples, like last summer we opened the Star Trek movie at the same time as the multiplex because there's certain studios that allow that just say
you can do that.
Yeah, there's others who are like within 5 miles of another theater. We won't. We'll give it to the other guys.
Let's do a quick ID. You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO. Our guests are Jerry and Mike from the Roxy Theater and the International Wildlife Film Festival 40th anniversary. We are proudly presented by Dawn Maddox, Glacier Sotheby's International Realty. That's what keeps the lights on here.
I know that. We're very happy to have Dawn in her.
We are. But can we get back to the Wildlife Film Fest for a quick second?
Happening this week.
Right, it's happening this week. There's some interesting films coming. A lot of films from folks here in Montana and the Northern Rockies, and so forth.
Jerry, not to be prejudicial or to what movie would you recommend if somebody said I want to go see one of those films or two of those films?
Right.
Which ones would you suggest that we go see?
I suggest you see Yasuni Man. That's one of my top picks just because it is made by a guy who used to live in Missoula, graduated from the wildlife biology program. His name's Ryan Kalaki, and he spent 7 years by himself in the Amazon making this film. And so
Holy cow.
blood, sweat, and tears went into this thing. I want to have that.
That's what I think about about a wildlife film documentary maker doing that.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And he's here.
He will be here, and he'll be at every screening. So check out all the times and schedules. Wildlifefilms.org
Beautiful
is where we're
Okay, give me another choice. That's one. Give me another one.
Chasing Coral. Also going to be a huge
tell us about that.
big film.
Won the audience award at Sundance back in January. Jerry and I actually saw it down there. It kind of blew us away. We were in this theater. It's seated, I guess, probably 1,500 at least.
Huge theater.
Massive.
I only cried twice.
Yeah, I cried 3 times. Yeah. I cried because I saw you
When
crying.
the coral died, you cried? Is that the... I don't want to give away the plot
Actually,
or
that's
anything.
how good the movie is. When the coral dies, you're like, oh.
What's the premise? What's the...
It's about coral die-offs and the coral bleaching that's happening around the world. And the main thrust of the film is that it had never been captured on video before because nobody really knows when it's going to happen. There's weather patterns and like water that they can get the temperature going and think, okay, it's probably going to happen. But they don't know for sure, so they had to go and mount all of these deep underwater cameras, and it was really difficult technically. They had to really troubleshoot. Sometimes the salt water would get in, sometimes the lens would fog, sometimes just all these things happened. So it had
time-lapsing under the water is
where did they film?
Difficult.
Super difficult. All off the coast of Australia. They had and they had 5 or 6 different locations that they were tracking all at the same time. So very difficult.
So how much does a film like that cost to make?
I don't actually know. This same filmmaker did a film about 5 years ago called Chasing Ice about a National Geographic photographer named James Blaylock, who documented glaciers receding in a time-lapse fashion. And I know that film was well over $1 million in production.
Sure.
This looks great, and I imagine they had at least that to make this thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Netflix picked it up, so we'll have this special screenings at the Wildlife Film Fest, and then later this year it'll be
that's one of the great things of having, Netflix and some of these other, mediums to show this. Because if you didn't have that, you'd have to wait till National Geographic Channel or somebody would take it. We now have a vehicle.
Yeah, we had Michelle O'Hyan in here, 100 Years. She would show it at Big Sky Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So she was talking a lot about, look, those aren't big money makers either. In fact, they're also operating.
Unless somebody picks one up and and
like Netflix or Netflix and then on demand.
Amazon
does it too.
Amazon had the Leonardo DiCaprio movie last year before the flood. I think it's amazing that there are these large distribution networks that have an interest in this content.
Sure.
Because you're right, it's not hugely money making. I mean, I have a feeling that they'll do very well with a film like Chasing Coral because it's just going to be so well received. And I know Before the Flood was very well received. And you think about, there's another big one coming out. Paramount's going to release Inconvenient Sequel, the follow-up
Inconvenient Truth.
The follow-up to the Al Gore movie, which we also saw at Sundance and is phenomenal. And that'll have a really big release through Paramount, so have a theatrical release. But it seems like there's more of a passion behind getting the info out there than just.
Is there more of an interest as you look at the crowd of millennials and others coming to see these kind of movies, or what's the crowd look like?
It's a great mix. I mean, there's definitely going to be, it skews a little older just because that's who knows about IWFF. But I have seen a lot of young filmmakers. I would say this year we have a bunch of millennial filmmakers who have made these films that are going to come to Missoula and be here. And
Jerry developed a program called IWFF Labs this year, which brings filmmakers in from all over. There were international applicants. I don't know. Do you have anyone coming from outside the country, or is everybody?
India and Canada.
Right.
That counts.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And what are these younger filmmakers shooting on? Are people diversifying? Like they're using their phone and they're using their iPad and
Yeah.
They're doing
You know.
crowdsource
Definitely.
funding for some of these things.
so they're getting
Yep.
creative on how they
Yep.
shoot and how they finance and how they distribute.
Oh,
The
for sure.
technology seems
Yeah.
the least, the lowest hurdle of
Right,
all.
right,
these days,
right.
right. You can make a movie on your phone, like you said,
The phone is the best camera I've ever owned.
Yeah.
It really is. The iPhone.
and you always have it with you.
And you always
Well,
have
there are
it with
movies
you.
like Blair Witch Project that was made, horribly.
Remember
in
that?
terms
That
of
was a tipping
technology.
point.
Yeah.
Montana
Oh, yeah.
Film Fest a couple of years ago, we had a movie called I shouldn't have brought it up because I don't remember. It's called Tangerine.
Tangerine.
Yeah,
I remember Tangerine.
Shot entirely on iPhones. I mean, they had
Right.
some really cool rigs so they could do kind of
About
steady shots. But
transgender.
exactly.
Yeah.
Shot in LA, just like right on the streets, and some of they blended real actors
Right.
and real
You
people.
can find that on Netflix or
Yeah, it's beautiful, really exciting.
and a funny movie. It's
Very funny.
humorous and
Dark.
Yeah.
Dan, our
raunchy.
digital guy here. Sorry to interrupt, but our digital guy here has a handheld. He uses his iPhone, and he's got a device that actually feels like a dolly. It's like real motion.
Yeah,
It's
like
like
a steady cam.
Yeah,
kind of
steady
thing.
cam.
Yeah, sure.
He's got this incredible steady cam, and he's got the.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do with the technology in your pocket.
Yeah, iPhone 6s are what they used for Tangerine. It was a really big deal. Now it's sort of like, oh, yeah, sure.
Right. But let me ask a question related to this, which is, we talk about Hulu, you talk about Netflix, you talk about the way consumers watch films has changed, and these companies have certainly ushered that in. But you're a traditional brick and mortar film house.
Yeah.
And when I've been there, you've got great crowds. That doesn't change. Like, talk a little bit about the experience.
Okay, so I think the best way to understand why the Roxy is successful is that it feels like people care about you being there. And again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. But
No, it
most
does.
of my experience, and I'm not pointing the finger directly at any theater in town, but my experience with multiplex theaters in Spokane and St. Louis and Los Angeles is typically that there's not a real customer service that's community oriented. There's not a feel. It feels very corporate. It feels you're being sold to from the moment you pull
Right.
into the parking lot.
I mean, you pay
And
$20 for popcorn and a drink.
it's atrocious. It's like a 1,500% markup from the cost
Right.
of the corn. And so we keep things, it's not just an economic choice. It's like, we would choose to make a lot more money if we just couldn't
Right.
choose that. But we choose to do something that is for our community, and we're about engaging community. So we are always open to community groups who want to show films or local filmmakers
I mean,
who want to bring their work.
I'm saying this honestly, not just you brought me back to going to movie theaters. That you're there.
That's
I mean,
great to hear.
popcorn in a stainless steel bowl.
Triple
Yeah.
organic, my friend.
Triple organic, and it does make a difference in the
delicious.
taste.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great popcorn. The funny introductions to the movies on the screen. The real sense of community. It's
To how they
community-run.
curate these films.
Yeah, and the selection of the films. There's stuff there that
Right.
you can't see anywhere else.
I agree with you.
And if you're interested in movies at all, you're reading reviews. You look at the New Yorker. You look at the Sunday New York Times movie section and say, well, that sounds like an interesting film. And if you weren't here, I would never get a chance to see it, or I would have to wait years
Eventually, you
to
have to
see
wait.
it.
And I think there's a piece. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
all that.
And
I
that's
really
all.
do.
It's
There's a
heartfelt.
piece around curation where you say, not just in a new release, but like, for example, the movie we did last week in our movie cult movie was Big Trouble in Little China. That movie is readily available on a dozen formats that you could get from your phone to the video store to whatever.
Right.
There was 120 people at the theater to watch it together.
Yeah, there's
And
something about the
eventized,
experience.
it was a sense of like the energy around the promotion of it, and people were anticipating it.
Right.
It was
But there
already
was a
had
movie. I
cult
can't
appeal.
remember the name. You'll remember one with Jason Segel and Jesse Eisen.
Yeah. End of the tour.
Yeah, end of the tour.
Yeah.
About the about the writer or
David Foster Wallace.
Right,
yeah.
I thought that was a fabulous movie,
Yeah.
and it would never have been out.
Yeah. Maybe you catch it on Redbox or you see it on your on.
Yeah, but
on
that's the
demand.
kind of movie that I like going to movie theater to see.
I agree. I do too. And I think so that we do. You asked about where our audience skews.
Right.
It's interesting because our first run films often are kind of programmed for, chosen for a little bit older audience that's accustomed to going to movies. It's been growing up going to movies.
Right.
And our one-off programming that's more of culty appeal or like a director series like the Paul Thomas Anderson thing we're doing this month. That's kind of skewed a bit towards a younger audience, where they're like, they didn't see it they never saw John Carpenter's films on a big screen, so they'll come see Halloween, or they never seen Kubrick in a movie theater. And
so the experience and the communal aspect and the smells and the tastes. I know when I walked in there last week with one of my colleagues into the Roxy, I got hit with the fresh popcorn and just all the visuals. I mean, just like you're in a movie theater, you're in somebody who cares about film.
Yeah. Let me ask you about so you buy the theater in 2013, right?
The organization, yeah,
the organization bought it.
Yeah.
You had to put some technological upgrades, right? I mean,
when I started, 4 years ago, we did a lot. We got
it's got a great sound system. You have to have that in a theater.
Luckily, it came with that. I mean, it had this great 7.1 Dolby system that, again, was being totally underutilized. The least work that we did was in the theaters, because people never really went to, they weren't doing a lot.
Right.
Because the lobby was a bit trashed, and we upgraded that. But we also upgraded the technology. We got these high-def projectors. And in one case, in Theater 1, we have this system, which is DCP, which allows us to do all of these first run. It's basically digital 35 millimeter. They don't release film prints anymore for new films. So we got that. And then the other kind of upgrading we did was a personnel upgrade. Like, we didn't really know how to run a movie theater, to be honest. And it turns out we have volunteer base, so we're like, volunteer projectionists. And I'm like, no, we need to move past that. We have this amazing, that's really the secret of the Roxy, is this amazing staff that cares so much. We have a programming staff that throws out, hey, let's show John Carpenter movies. Or, those are the same staff, including Jerry, that run the film festivals and bring their
So let me ask you this.
Hold on, let's do a quick ID, though. You're listening to What Do You Know? Newstalk, KGVO, Mike Steinberg and Jerry from the Roxy Theater. Didn't you have a special guest there the other day, a governor? Who came up?
Some governor.
What? Tell us a little bit about what
That's
that
Jerry's
was about.
buddy,
Oh, Steve Bullock, the governor of Montana, stopped by the
what
Roxy.
What was he doing there?
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is in Mike's court. What he was doing there.
Yeah. Well, what he was doing there is he was delivering a check. He was basically a glorified delivery person.
Oh, good.
As it turns out, he was delivering a check to the Roxy because we're in the middle of a fundraiser to restore the theater to its Art Deco aesthetic. So the check is for 2 grants that we received from the state, amounting to $167,000.
That's great. Congratulations.
They put it all in one check, which is great.
Nice.
We just need a gigantic
They wanted to
envelope.
save on the
a gigantic
fees.
envelope.
Service fees. For
Exactly. Like, okay, let's put it together.
So what does that entail?
It entails a box office window coming back, which the Roxy originally had that. It burned down in 1994.
Right.
They rebuilt it with the flat marquee and took out the box office window. And the facade's original, but what they've added onto it is not. So we're going to restore that to that original aesthetic, which is kind of a streamlined Art Deco. So I have a box office window, a brand new period accurate historic sort of neon marquee, true neon.
That's cool.
Yeah, classic neon, unlike the LED kind of thing. It's going to be really classic and beautiful. And a paint job, which takes it back to that original kind of aesthetic.
That's good. That's great.
And all will be completed. It's the 80th anniversary this year. Everything will be done by September 24th, which is the actual day that the Roxy.
And was the process of getting those grants secured, what was that like?
Well, one of the grants was a 2-to-1 matching grant. So by January 1st, we kind of had this deadline to raise a certain amount. We raised about $45,000, and TIP, which stands for Tourism and Infrastructure something. Basically, it's bed tax money. One of the only taxes that people pay when they come to Montana is they pay hotel bed tax.
Yes.
And that money is used for tourism and infrastructure around the state. So we applied for that grant to support our remodel, because we'll bring people.
Sure, people who come here in the summertime want to go see a movie, and they see this cool old, historic-looking theater. They want to go there.
Precisely. So that was a grant we applied for and had a lot of support from the community, a lot of stakeholders. Received a couple of other smaller grants that helped, build up that matching money that we could present.
So I want to go back to just one technical question for our listeners.
Sure.
So movies now, the new movies, don't come in the big reels and everything like they used to. They're all digital.
No celluloid. Right. It's all digital. It's a hard drive.
Right. So what happens? Do you have to still keep equipment if you're going to do a movie like Little China? Do you have to have the other equipment to show that?
Well, we don't have to, because we have digital projectors that can project Blu-rays. But we were really fortunate to receive the 35 millimeter projectors that came from the Wilma Theater. Nick Chakota donated those to us.
Nice. So you can show those in the original format.
And as we finish the rest of our upgrade process for the other 2 rooms, we're installing 35. So we show something like 15 or more classic films a month. That's about our average.
On the old projectors or no?
So I don't think we want to do that.
Right.
It's so labor intensive, but we will do, once we get these installed, we'll do at least one a month. That's like a special thing, like showing it in 35.
It's like the vinyl. It's your version of vinyl.
It is vinyl, totally.
Yeah.
It's your version of vinyl. Our guests are Mike and Jerry from the Roxy Theater. The International Wildlife Film Festival is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and we're proud to say that it's launched yesterday on Saturday, right?
Yep.
And runs all the way through when?
All the way through Earth Day on the 22nd.
Earth Day?
Yeah, we cap it off on Earth Day with a marathon screening of Planet Earth 2.
Are you planning anything special for 420?
We actually
Indeed.
Yeah.
Tell us about that before we go into the break.
Man, this is the best.
Before we go into the break, tell us.
Mellow Mood is having a block party on 420, so we've partnered with them to screen Microcosmos.
Do you know this movie?
No, tell us.
It is far out.
It is a cool movie that you're going to want to come see
What's
at
the premise?
So
8 o'clock.
Wing Migration, did you ever see that movie about the birds and those French filmmakers who did that?
Yeah.
So this is their prior film, and it's all about insect world, shot with extraordinary macro lenses.
I think I've seen a clip of this where it looks...
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
This is a good film.
Yeah.
This is a great film.
420, folks. 8 p.m.
420. And by the way, we're going to come back. We're going to go take a quick break. But how do they find out about? Is there a website that we can go
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wildlifefilms.org.
Wildlifefilms.org. And you're on Facebook and Instagram too?
Facebook and Instagram.
Who's doing all that there?
I don't know. Elves.
This shows up.
Elves?
Little
Amazing.
volunteers, community volunteers.
Lots of volunteers, lots of interns, staff.
I mean, I love
Everyone pitches in.
your lead-ins to the movies on there. The face of the moon and all that kind of stuff you put together. It's all very, very clever.
This is a guy, Marshall Granger. He's incredible.
He's
he did our
fantastic.
trailer
He's an
this
unsung
year. He
hero.
does anything you see sort of produced for us up
all
on
that
screen.
digital stuff is great.
Yeah, he's amazing. So talented.
Let's go to a quick break. We'll be back after this with Mike and Jerry from the Rocks. Okay, we are back. Arnie.
So I want to hear what we know about the International Film Festival. What other events and what other activities are coming up that we ought to pay attention to?
So special events at IWFF this year. Mike was talking about this new educational program that we have that happened last week, the week before the festival. It's called IWFF Labs.
Yes.
And it was 16 students on the verge of their wildlife filmmaking careers came to Missoula, did some intense workshops, and they made some mini documentaries. And those premiere Monday night at 6.
Oh, great.
They partnered with nonprofits here in Missoula to make those small films. So come support them. Come support our new education program by attending that screening, 6 p.m. on Monday. And then for everyone who's looking to save a buck, we've got a whole bunch of free stuff happening on campus on Tuesday, April 18th at 3 p.m. We have a free movie screening at the UC Theater called The Power of the River. That's about fly fishing and conservation in Bhutan. Should be really cool.
Well, that's cool.
And at 7,
not like fly fishing in Yemen, right? With
right.
that was the British. I'll remember his name in a minute.
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. That was kind of a cool
Different
movie,
film.
actually.
And then we're also screening 4 short Montana-centric films at 7 p.m. in the UC Theater.
Nice.
So those are great. Some Missoula filmmakers in there showing films at 7. So that's a great event to come out to if you want to come see some movies for free.
If you're all into free, don't forget Saturday. We've got on
Yes.
Earth Day. We've got a marathon of Planet Earth 2. The new BBC series.
Right.
Maybe you've seen that clip of that lizard being chased by snakes. Have you
Yes.
seen that thing?
Yep.
But you see it on a big screen.
That's why we go to the Roxy. Let me ask you
Why
one
aren't you
cool-
showing that on 420?
We don't want to freak everybody out.
Totally. You don't want people running
The
down
insects.
the street screaming.
opportunity.
Screaming. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the university. What kind of collaboration between you and the university and it's going on?
Lots. I mean, for the Wildlife Film Fest in
Well,
particular.
but in general.
I mean, we have a couple of there's the former dean of the School of Arts and Sciences is on our board. The current chair of the Wildlife Department is on our board as well. So there's a great relationship.
And that's one of the good things about having the Roxy in a university town, that you can have that kind of matchup.
Yeah. And then the other programs that are really, really super supportive of the Roxy are, you would guess, the media arts program, entertainment management,
right?
Super great. We do a lot of collaboration there, bring in interns. I'm always over there talking to their classes. The School of Performing Arts as well, theater department, dance department. We have a collaboration with Bear Bait Dance and do a regular film dance program. And so many students volunteer and just come to the theater, and
sure,
there's faculty that are way involved.
One of the reasons we wanted to have you here is because we wanted our listeners to know that the Roxy is more than just a theater. It's almost like a living organism.
It is
in the media world because of all the events and activities.
Living organism.
Yeah,
it is. It's
I agree. Orphanage.
Living
orphanage. Forget the organism. It's the living orphanage.
We do. We take people in.
I actually think about it a lot as a heart. That breathes in, and the blood comes in, the blood goes out. But it is an organism.
Right. It's just not a building.
It's not just a building where things start and stop. It's just kind of always happening.
And good point. What do you think about what's going on in the rest of town? You've got the AMC taking over for the Carmike. You got an IMAX theater coming in.
Yeah.
You've got more hotels being built. I mean, that's all good for the town, correct?
I think it's all good.
Especially for you guys.
A friend of mine had an opinion of Missoula that I think I kind of share, and it's for better or for worse. I don't think Missoula's gonna be ruined because the weather's not good enough.
Right?
Yeah.
The scenery's not that good. Exactly. I mean, it's like great access, of course, and we love it here. But people come here and they're like, "Oh, you get a long gray winter." So we're gonna get those folks in the summer for sure. But
it's our protector from being homogenized into the rest of all the other small towns.
Industry is there's great limits to industry, of course, and that's a good thing. But it's also means that there's no jobs. But
that's another show.
It's also hard to be right.
Yeah. So I do have some opinions about it, and I'm curious to see what happens when the new theater comes in, and we're not that concerned. We want to just keep doing what we do and do it the way we do it, and it feels like it may have a little impact on the movies that we get. But
you have children, right?
I have two of them. Yeah.
How old are they?
10 and 16.
10 and 16. So are you
two girls?
Okay. Do you experience the sports like tournaments, leagues type?
A little bit. My 16-year-old plays lacrosse right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. Like, woof, boy, man, you got to go to Billings for a game.
Exactly.
What is happening?
Well, that's the interesting thing about Missoula is that we become more of an attraction for all these out-of-state or these teams to come, whether it be soccer or swimming or basketball or lacrosse. And so as a host city, having more hotel rooms, especially in the shoulder season, not in the summer, obviously, that's why the mall and the theater and the shopping is all there to accommodate people who come in to visit. So that's a nice thing for us, and hopefully it'll be a nice thing for you guys, too. I think we should have you come into Destination Missoula. I'm on the board of Destination Missoula, and let them know about the new grant. And, I mean, I'm sure they already know about it, but talk a little bit about it. I think it's a great story to tell.
Yep.
And you guys have a great story to tell, and I'm glad you.
And thank you for being here. I think we're out of time. I'd like to. We have a lot more to talk about, but we'll have to do it another day.
Thank you for having us. It was
and remember,
you're welcome back anytime.
It's Roxy.com.
RoxyTheater.org. Or Roxy.com. You'll get there. You can buy some surf clothes if you go to Roxy.com.
That'd be great. Get your surf clothes and go to the movies.
All right, Arnie, I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to What Do You Know?
I can't wait for the next show, Scott.
I'm excited too, Arnie. If you'd like to suggest a guest, send me an email at scottrichman@townsquaremedia.com. We'll see you next week. And thanks for listening to Newstalk KGVO,